6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Mallavarachi, read by Sounditavam. The Indian External Affairs Minister will visit Sri Lanka this month. Another ship carrying 60,000 metric tons of coal needed for power generation at the Norachole Lakvijaya power plant has arrived in the island. The central bank expresses confidence that the inflation rate could drop to normal by the end of this year. 1,200 metric tons of illegally imported brown sugar has been confiscated. The Sri Lankan embassy in Washington was able to secure 550 job opportunities for Sri Lankans this year in the US. In news overseas, Western allies to send armoured vehicles to Ukraine. And in sports, the decisive final T20 match between Sri Lanka and India will be played today. The Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is scheduled to visit Sri Lanka this month for 2 days for bilateral talks. However, the final dates of the visit are still being worked out. This is his first visit to Sri Lanka after President Ranil Wickremesinghe took office in July last year. During the crisis period, Sri Lanka and India had made key engagements and framed a 4-point package, including a line of credit to import food, medicines and fuel. India has already extended $4 billion finance assistance in terms of loans, deferment of payments and currency swap arrangements. As part of bilateral ties, India has sought greater connectivity with Sri Lanka and investments in areas such as the port and energy sectors. The re-establishment of air connectivity between Jaffna and Chennai and the proposed ferry links between the north of Sri Lanka and the southern ports of India are part of the connectivity programs. This is the first high-profile visit from India in the new year. Dr. Jaishankar visited Sri Lanka for the last time in March 2022. The chairman and the managing director of Lanka Coal Company, Shehan Sumanasekara, says that another ship carrying 60,000 metric tons of coal needed for power generation at the Norachole Lakvijaya power plant will arrive in the island today. 7 ships of coal are scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka within this month, according to him. These coal ships are to be unloaded at the Puttalam harbour, and the coal will be transported from there to the Lakvijaya power plant in Norachole. The ship Darya Rama, carrying 60,000 metric tons of coal, arrived on the Ilattadiya coast last morning. The Hong Kong-registered ship had reached here from South Africa just a day before coal stocks needed to produce electricity at the Lakvijaya power plant were exhausted. The second generator of the Lakvijaya power plant had been stopped a few weeks ago due to the insufficient amount of coal, and 2 generators had produced an electricity capacity of nearly 580 megawatts. A senior CB official said that boats had already been sent to transport the coal from the ship to the Lakvijaya power plant. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says the inflation is dropping gradually. Accordingly, the inflation rate is expected to drop further during the first quarter of this year. The central bank expressed confidence that inflation could drop to normal accepted levels before the end of this year. In case of inflation increases for some reason, then the government will change its policies to control inflation. The dropping of inflation will indicate that the economy is slowly restoring back to normal levels. State Minister of Finance Dr. Ranjit Siambalapichu says that 1,200 metric tons of illegally imported brown sugar has been confiscated. The minister said the brown sugar has been imported under the guise of importing white sugar. The importation of brown sugar is restricted as Sri Lanka produces sufficient quantities of it locally. However, the customs officers have discovered that more than 50% of the consignment in the containers imported by the concerned businessman is brown sugar. Inspecting the relevant sugar stock yesterday, the minister pointed out that at a time when the country is facing an acute shortage of dollars, everyone should act in accordance with the law. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Sri Lankan embassy in Washington was able to secure 550 job opportunities for Sri Lankans this year in the US. The Sri Lankan embassy said This discussion between the American authorities and Sri Lanka's Foreign Employment Bureau was successful. Accordingly, 250 nurses, 200 nurse assistants and 100 lab assistants will be recruited and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
Moving on to Watchlight, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board announced that the water supply to several areas in Colombo will be interrupted tomorrow. Accordingly, the water supply will be interrupted to the areas of Colombo 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 9 and 10 and Colombo 11. The water cut will be imposed for 18 hours starting from 10 p.m. tomorrow and will be restored at 4 p.m. On Sunday, the water cut is being implemented owing to some essential maintenance work of development projects related to the transmission pipeline system that supplies water to the Maligakanda Reservoir and came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news. In the headlines, Western allies to send fighting vehicles to Ukraine. Panic in India's Uttarakhand town over large cracks in homes. Cornwall space launch Virgin Orbit targets Monday for UK mission. Germany and the US have agreed to join France in sending armoured fighting vehicles to Ukraine, a move seen as a significant boost to its military's capability on the battlefield. For months, Ukraine has been asking Western allies to supply tanks, and although these vehicles are less powerful, the decision to send them sets a new precedent. Ukraine said it was a great victory. Germany has long hesitated over beefing up weapon deliveries to Kyiv. Residents of Joshimath town in Uttarakhand state are demanding evacuation and rehabilitation after large cracks appeared in their homes. On Thursday, officials stopped several construction projects after thousands of protesters blocked a national highway in the Himalayan state. The state's chief minister is holding a high-level meeting on Friday to discuss the issue. Dozens of people were evacuated to temporary shelters this week. The first ever orbital space launch from the UK is back on and scheduled for the night of Monday, the 9th of January. The Virgin Orbit company says it's now ready to proceed with a historic mission which will run out of Cornwall Airport, Newquay. It will see a repurposed 747 release a rocket over the Atlantic to take 9 satellites high above the Earth. Virgin stood down an attempt before Christmas for late additional testing, but the firm says it's now good to go. And back to the headlines of the world news. Western allies to send armoured vehicles to the Ukraine. Panic in India's Uttarakhand town over large cracks in homes. And Cornwall space launch Virgin Orbit targets Monday for UK mission. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says the inflation is dropping gradually. Accordingly, the inflation is expected to drop further during the first quarter of this year. The central bank expressed confidence that the inflation could drop to normal accepted level before the end of this year. In case the inflation increases for some reason, then the government will change its policies to control inflation. Dropping inflation will indicate that the economy is slowly restoring back to normal condition. That came to you in development news. And taking a look at sports news. The decisive final T20 match between Sri Lanka and India will be played today. Sri Lanka beat India in the second T20 match played in Pune on Thursday by 16 runs. Sri Lanka has entered into a tough competition of the 3-match series, 1-all at present, making the third match decisive. That's sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Let us turn this difficult time that we are facing now to a positive opportunity. We must rise up as a nation in 2023. NSB will extend its fullest support for you to rise with confidence. NSB, the safest place for you.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Fasat Sri Lanka, the premier gem and jewellery show, is all set to commence from today at the Cinnamon Grand, Colombo. This will open to visitors daily from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. The premium edition of this world-class gem and jewellery show will end on the 9th of this month. The exhibition attracts a large number of international exhibitors and buyers and is a must-visit for those in the gem and jewellery industry. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank.
Let us turn this difficult time that we are facing now to a positive opportunity. We must rise up as a nation in 2023. NSB will extend its fullest support for you to rise with confidence. NSB, the safest place for you.
Economic news, courtesy of
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
Sri Lanka will restart negotiations on trade pacts with India, China and Thailand after a 4-year hiatus. An official said yesterday, as the crisis-hit country races to seal deals to help it rebuild its economy. Officials from Thailand are scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka on Monday to start the third round of talks after negotiations were suspended in 2018, said KJ Veerasinghe, Sri Lanka's chief negotiator of free trade agreements FTAs. Negotiations with India and China, Sri Lanka's biggest trading partners, accounting for about $5 billion each in bilateral trade as in 2021, are expected to begin in February and March. That came to you in economic news.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
Weather report.
The Met Department says that showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the northern, north central, eastern, Uwa and central provinces. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the eastern province and the Polonnaruwa district. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places elsewhere during the afternoon or night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamuwa province and in the Kalutara and Gaul districts. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damage caused by temporary localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The Indian External Affairs Minister will visit Sri Lanka this month. Another ship carrying 60,000 metric tons of coal needed for power generation at the Norachole Lakvijaya power plant has arrived in the island. The central bank expresses confidence that the inflation could drop to normal by the end of this year. 1,200 metric tons of illegally imported brown sugar has been confiscated. The Sri Lankan embassy in Washington was able to secure 550 job opportunities for Sri Lankans this year in the US. Western allies to send armoured vehicles to Ukraine, and the decisive final T20 match between Sri Lanka and India will be played today. With that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast.